Good morning. What's happening, family? Welcome to the show. It is Michelle Bryant here at WNOV 860 AM 106.5 FM. Let me say that you are listening to Say Something Real. A lot to get to today, but let me say what up to the bros in the studio.
What up?
What up? Oh, jumping right in. Must be that fresh white Nike suit. What up, Devo? How you doing?
And she called it a Nike. You hear
I'm
that?
just, hey.
No,
Tag check 1 2 1 2. It look good though.
Oh no, please.
No. I said, oh no. How dare you?
It's authentic.
Don't come at me sideways.
It's authentic.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's what?
Authentic.
Authentic.
Not the Mikey, but the Nike. Styles of the rich and famous. Lifestyles. No, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. What up, D? How you doing this morning? How's your weekend, fam?
Great, man. I have been waiting all weekend
fresh
long.
like new money.
I've been waiting all weekend long to get in here.
Why?
To see you with the fan.
Oh my God, because Adeline.
Because they were out on the front counter. I'm like, I should put them.
Adeline Pressy brought me.
But you should see the fans that they brought Sister Sharon.
Oh really?
Oh my Lord.
It's a fool.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
I had. She
wait.
With
the fan. Oh my God! It didn't even take me long to get it.
No, it didn't. Couple pops and you were there. You was there. That's what happened when you got the real one, though. The other ones ain't gonna do it.
Adeline hooked me up.
Right.
They sweet, man. Oh man, I thought I was gonna have a church man.
Like it's gonna block off the room, off the handle.
I'm just saying, and it's fun to do it too. Wait, I can't do it.
Go the other way.
Oh, you doing it
trying to go backward now? You gotta go the other way. Forward.
Okay, I'm gonna get it again. But
roll it.
I just want to say thank you so much to Adeline Pressy. She always looks out for me. I don't know what made Adeline adopt me and make me family, but when I say that girl love me, and I know it, and I appreciate it, sis. Thank you so much. She brought me and Rep Myers fans.
You are good people, Michelle. It's not hard to love you. It's just hard to get along with you.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to add that?
Yeah. It's a difference.
You feel like you should say that.
It's a difference.
He said, goodness. You know what? You love me too.
I didn't say that.
Anyway.
I said it's not hard to love you.
Anyway.
You know.
I'm going to just say. Hey, Mr. Ryder.
Well, hello there. Hello.
I understand we should be singing Happy Anniversary.
Yeah, it's a celebration. No, all seriousness. First, I want to send out condolences to my family and the year anniversary of my cousin Jeffrey's passing. April 14th of 2024, he passed away. And that was also the same day that my life changed for the greater. Had life-saving surgery. And I'm a year into my surgery, and I'm grateful that I can sit here and say that I'm 100% cancer-free. So,
my man.
All right.
Thank God.
Sounds like a celebration. I think you should take me to Capitol Grill.
I know what I need to do. This is what I need to do. Give me that fan. Give me that fan.
No, they just told you that for the men, folks.
No. Okay.
Let's see how a man's supposed to do this. Huh?
He don't know how to
hold it. That's what the men do.
You ain't doing nothing.
But not telling me he ain't doing nothing. No, dude, no.
Get my friend.
How you gonna make the noise when that part comes out? Oh, that's how you do it. Clap.
Okay, here it goes.
Celebrations.
Don't touch my fan.
It's definitely
I can hear
contaminated.
Al said, if you drive a Buick,
That's a celebration.
this fan is not for you. Don't touch my stuff. No more.
But don't you ever do that again.
Never again. All right, y'all. Debo.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciated your rap this morning. I was trying to think of the rapper who you was reminding me of. I can't think of. Dang, I see. Was it Slick Rick?
Heavy D.
He sounded like Slick Rick for a moment, but
Why
anyway,
it got to be heavy D, dog? What you trying to say?
maybe heavy.
You
No,
just
I wasn't
said who
saying
she
that.
remind you
I
of.
wasn't saying
No,
that.
I thought he was saying because
He probably was
heavy
saying
D.
that.
I probably was.
Overweight love in the house. Overweight love in the. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so just real quick, Jay was talking about a family member that had been lost a year ago. Yesterday was my mom's birthday. April
My mom's
13th.
birthday was yesterday as well. We
Really?
were out with her yesterday. Yeah,
You said your mom?
yeah.
Oh, that's
man,
cool.
Yeah,
happy
her
birthday.
birthday was
And
yesterday.
so and they're right. It gets easier.
Yeah.
But mom's birthday yesterday, and then also want to say happy anniversary. Former state representative Dr. Lakeisha Myers, her parents celebrated 51 years of marriage yesterday.
Wow, that's longer than I've been alive.
Dude, come on now. So yeah, happy birthday to Gertha and
People
Johnny
over here.
Myers. Happy anniversary to Gertha and Johnny Myers. Unfortunately, Keisha's mom is in the hospital right now. She had a stroke last Wednesday.
Hmm.
And so kind of trying to come through that, but 51 years in.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's cool.
Keep
Well,
her
I
lifted
mean,
up in
people,
prayer.
people really make it that long.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Man. I mean, my parents been married 50 some years too.
Yeah. I mean, like when you see it work, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And but you understand it's work.
It's work.
Mhm.
It's not. One of my good friends, Will Williams, who is from here, just got married out in DC. We were all going to the wedding, but because of Keisha's mom's stroke, Keisha and I stayed back. Judge Taylor went out to the wedding. Will started working in Judge Taylor's office. He was a UW-Madison Law School graduate, worked in the Senate office for a few years and then moved out to DC. Now he works for the federal government out there, but he just got married. And so I couldn't be at the wedding, but I sent him this thing like, hey, here goes some advice I wish people had gave me when I got married.
Yeah, they should have gave it to you a couple of different times.
Yeah.
You left that open.
I really didn't.
Yeah, because he
just
busted the bottle.
He just sitting in the cut.
That's what he did.
He showed out because he got on a real Nike outfit.
No.
That's all it is.
Oh, here we go.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know you feel. When you have on real stuff, you feel fresh. Like when you get your first real cologne.
Being the only
You stop wearing like
That $200-$300 bottle.
Thank you. You know how you take a
being the
shower
only
just
married
so you
person in
put a
the
look.
room. Did y'all hear that?
No.
Being the only married person in the room.
Married now.
Right now in the whole building, Doug, he ain't even married.
Hey, man.
He was. We all were
See,
married.
What's
your point?
Yeah,
Because
mine is my
look,
choice,
I can
brother.
certainly-
Look, because Jackie put up with you longer than anybody else.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
that ain't no win for you. That's Jackie doing her thing.
Well, I must have did something right. I'm still together.
Jackie just didn't feel like looking for nobody else.
Okay.
So I said, marriage is not for the weak.
It's not. And getting old is not for the weak either.
Or for the trifling.
Hey there, lonely girl.
I ain't lonely.
Me neither.
Go ahead, sing it.
Lonely girl.
Your mama lonely.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
Your mama.
Wait a minute.
Hey.
Look,
Yeah.
has been a good weekend. A lot going on. The weather cooperated. Let me just say this real quick. So we have a lawn service that comes in and cuts the grass because this yard is stupid. And you need a riding mow to cut the grass. And then we got like this steep hill that comes down. And so this space gives people problems, right? So I got this white guy that's been cutting the grass fairly regularly. He and his son come. His son looks like he's about 9 years old, maybe 10 now. I met him last summer when they first got the contract and started coming. And yesterday, because they came on Sunday to cut the grass. So yesterday, I was in the yard doing, that spring raking and carrying on. And I heard the lawnmower moving because they were there. They were on the property. He came up and spoke before they got started. I heard the lawnmower moving, but I could see the dad standing peripherally, like right by me. And I'm like, well, why is the lawnmower on? And the dad is standing right by me. And I turned around to look. The 9-year-old was cutting the grass yesterday,
Mm.
driving the riding mow. And this wasn't one of them little riding mows that, like kind of narrow and, you sit. This is one of the wide riding mows. Like you cutting like twice the area than a regular riding mow because the way it's made is so wide. That little 9-year-old boy cut 75% of the yard yesterday. The dad just stood back and watched him. Gave him a little bit of direction, come down that hill. And I said, I know he's not gonna let this boy come down that hill because lawnmowers have flipped over
Yeah.
coming down that hill. I said, I know he's not gonna let this little boy come down that hill. That baby came down slow, took his time. That boy cut the steepest part of the hill. The dad took that. He was like, yeah, okay. You got the swing of it, but this right here, you ain't ready for it. So his dad took that part. So I just thought about like number one, you teaching this child something that a lot of grown folks ain't doing, but when you bring these kids along and show them what they're capable of. And I mean, he cut it like a champ.
And also, when you do stuff like that, you put interest in your kids. So that's something that can be passed down to them. You put interest in them. So every time you cut the grass, they're going to want to come and cut the grass with you.
Yeah.
And not only are you spending time with your loved one, you're putting a seed in them that can grow into something way
I mean, you're
bigger
giving
than
this
them.
child skills
Yeah.
already. Already you giving this baby skills. And then whereas you got to go out and find a second man to help you with your work crew, your 9-year-old son is capable of handling this riding mow like his dad to an extent. So I just had to comment on that. That blew me away. Watching what we can do. So this morning, I have a new segment that's going to be starting on the show once a month. The Scales of Justice, Attorney Mark Thompson. We had him in last week talking about the situation with Judge Taylor's son Isaiah, who was basically racially profiled and stopped by the police when he was delivering a turkey to a neighbor for the holidays. Actually put in the squad car, patted down, the whole 9 yards. The boy tells him, I got a turkey, and they still run his name looking for warrants, and they check and they see that he has a turkey, and they still run his name looking for warrants, hoping that they could find something on Isaiah. Talking about the way the case has wound through the justice system, how the judge tried to play, Isaiah and some of the earlier decisions. It just ended up being a mess. And so Mark Thompson has represented Isaiah. So now Isaiah is at a point where he has an opportunity to either have his day in court or have the city settle, one or the other. Hopefully, this young man will see some justice. So as a result of some of these conversations with Mark Thompson, we realize that people in our community have a lot of legal questions, don't always have access immediately to an attorney, and thought it might be a great idea to have a resident attorney, if you will, to be able to talk about some of the issues that are common, that many of us have an opportunity to encounter. So a number of things. So that's at 7:30. So we'll do that in the bottom half of the hour. But a number of things, obviously, that we're going to get to before that and then after the segment. One thing that stood out right away, a couple of things. So first of all, we have to give kudos, and I'm just going to pull it up. Let me see if I can find the text messages. Hey, all right, here we go. There was a story that was done on TMJ. I think it was TMJ4. Yep, TMJ4. Young brother by the name of Brandon. Is Brandon's last name Johnson? Let me look and see. Brandon Patterson. There we go. Two seniors at Rufus King International High School in Milwaukee are set to take significant steps in their educational journeys as they prepare to attend Ivy League universities in the fall. Brandon Patterson will be heading to the University of Pennsylvania, while Feli I'm not sure how to say her name. Brown is bound for Yale University. Patterson and Brown started their friendship early in their high school careers. They both take IB courses and are involved in co curricular groups. As they embark on this exciting journey together, Patterson expressed how happy he is to experience this special moment with Brown. And these young people, came in as friends, uh, took advantage of every opportunity at the school and have reached this amazing plateau in terms of leaving high school, getting into the schools of their choices. So I reached out, his grandmother reached out to me. She's a listener to the show. And she reached out to let me know that the story was going to air on TMJ4, had an opportunity to see the story, was blown away. And I reached out to her to see if we could get an interview with her grandson, with BJ. And I just realized that I missed that she had responded to me. So I will get to them so that we can get an interview. But when I tell you blown away, blown away, blown away by these young people as folks try to question whether or not Rufus King, and, even have made me ask what's going on at King. Because this is my son, this is the school my son graduated from. Judge Taylor, former Representative State Representative Lakeisha Myers. I mean, King has a roster of alumni. That's some man. They got some killers coming out of King. Like I said that.
That was not nice.
What?
That wasn't nice.
Whatever. It was
Killers.
nice. Yeah, dude, you can be a killer.
Good killer. You're talking about a good killer.
A good killer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you can be a good killer. Look, I would do KILLA.
Killers. Okay.
Killer.
Not killers.
They had some academic shooters coming out of King.
Yeah.
You still got to have some hood element to it. I'm sorry.
Like
Like
Willie Hines. He's out of King, isn't he?
is he? I don't know.
Yeah, he graduated King.
Okay.
He balled for him over there.
Oh, okay. So I'm just saying, I'm done with him. I'm just bypassing everything he said. I am super proud of these young people. And I'm just going to be honest. I told y'all when I did the HBCU college tour and they talked about Black male enrollment at the HBCUs was less than 30% at every campus that we went to. One campus, it was only 18% of the student body were Black males. So even though Brandon isn't going to an HBCU, just the fact that those numbers, that you got brothers going to college, is critical and important. And so kudos to the family, to his grandmama. They don't play. Kudos to the family that has uplifted this young man, led by example, instilled values that he, has now made his own, taking them, getting ready to run with them. The sky is the limit. But that's what I'm saying to these babies that's getting dressed this morning, getting ready to go to school. I don't care where you go to school, whether it is in an urban or suburban community, rural or city, whether it is a private university school or a public K-12 program. School is what you make it. It is absolutely what you make it. And trust me, when people see that you're trying to make it, people will help you. Folks will see it in you and figure out a way to contribute to what you're trying to do. So I don't care where you are. I don't care how hard it is. If you stay focused right now, man, the whole world gonna open up for you. So congratulations to these babies who did the damn thing at King. If you have young people that are doing well, if we are getting college acceptance letters, please call us. Let us know. Because that's cool too. I don't care where you're going. If you got college acceptance letters coming in, I know what it was like at our house when my son was in high school, getting determination letters. So it's a tense time. And depending on if you got your choice or you didn't, it's a lot. The other piece of it is being able to finance that. There's an article in the paper today. Kids are getting acceptance letters, but when parents are doing the math, what they say, the math ain't mathing, trying to figure out how to make that work financially is a challenge. I will tell people, because somebody, and I need to reach out to this sister, somebody reached out to me and said that their child did get accepted into Howard, but that the cost was prohibitive. And that's been bothering me ever since I heard from her. So I need to get on the phone this week to figure out where dollars are, because I'm telling y'all there are dollars out there, y'all. So even if I can maneuver that first year, let's work to figure out how you keep it going, because academically, if the child continues to have good grades, their scholarships, and look at all of the money that's available outside of that school. Like I said, what Lakeisha is doing, Dr. Mars is doing with the NAACP AXO program, kids competing locally, then making it to the national level. That's a $10,000 scholarship right there. So we got to do everything we can to keep these babies in school.
Michelle, is the sign up over on that? I know something like April 11th was, because I have it on screen.
She was going to, I think she was going to extend it. And I'm gonna just tell kids, if there's any parents that are just hearing about this today, reach out to Dr. Myers or reach out to this radio station, leave your name and information. We'll make sure we get it forwarded and do everything we can to make sure that that child can still enter the competition, because the competition is on April 27th. So you got a little bit of time. I'm sure Dr. Myers will be flexible, but it's money out here, y'all. In fact, she just picked up a book I had about how to finance college that was written by a sister who was able to make sure that her son got ridiculous money because she scavenger hunt. Went on a scavenger hunt to find this money and found it. So let me take a break. I'll be right back. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM.
That soul-stirring gospel Easter bash is gonna be a bash you don't wanna miss at Abundant Face, located at 7830 West Good Hope Road. The Captain Spirituals. Come on now, Spencer Taylor and the Highway QCs. The fabulous Luckett Brothers. Pastor Tim Rogers and the Phillips is gonna be in the house. Bishop Neil Robeson, Reverend R.L. Bush and the Revived Church. Willie Rogers, Tiffany Terry, Willie Banks Jr. and the Messengers. Curtis Eubanks. Now get your tickets at the New Pitts Mortuary. Call 414-44
Nobody Bryant.
And, when you talk about didn't complete high school in the traditional way, went to work in a plant right away, and then people have to retool. A plant closes, you know, but that's a heck of a leap to retool from the plant to I'm gonna be an attorney. Where does that come from?
Well, there was sort of a transition. I'd met my wife, and the other thing you were talking about marriage, and
Okay.
it'll be 48 years this August. So we met in college, but I was paying my own way, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up in Chicago working, ended up in the mill, and just, fell in love with the union movement. And then we got tired of, our plant was in East Chicago, Indiana. We had, with 22,000 bargaining unit employees at the time.
Okay.
I worked in a coke plant. I represented like 650 people, 2 blast furnaces in a coke plant and that's the front end of steel production. We essentially made iron. A lot of environmental issues. So we were always calling lawyers. And there was another person that was active in the union, Jim Robinson. He eventually became district director. But we started talking about maybe we could just go to law school. So while I was a union rep, I went back and worked on my bachelor's. So when they shut down my plant, I was sort of thinking about law school.
Okay.
And we ended up moving to Milwaukee. My wife was an educator, urban educator. She did her PhD work at the University of Wisconsin here in Milwaukee. Taught at South Division, later, was a principal at School of Languages on Burleigh.
Yeah, no. How long ago was that?
Oh, she got out when Act 10 hit, so.
I'm wondering if she was my son's principal. That's kind of crazy. My son went there. And so
I'll have to go home and ask. Okay.
Because you know what? Well, wait, let me just say this though. So she did Milwaukee School of Languages, middle school or high school?
She had both.
So was she there when they transitioned from middle school to high school?
Yeah, she was one of the key players in doing
Then
the
that's when
transition.
my son was there, because he would have been. They tried to recruit him to stay at MSL that first year they were adding the high school program, and so but he went ahead and went to King. So she would have been his in the. Oh, that's
Anyway,
crazy.
It is
Okay,
crazy. It's a
okay.
tiny world, but
Yeah.
so I started thinking about law school while I was in the mill. There was one law school in Milwaukee when my wife came up here to do her PhD, and that was Marquette.
Right.
And when I was at Marquette, I fell in love with what's called torts, which is the law. It's essentially, I look at it this way. It is individual. How do you protect individual rights? And our whole democracy is, the Constitution is life, liberty, right, for each human being. And I fell in love with that concept, that the democracy only works if it's about each of us, right? Too often our politicians forget that it has to be fair for everyone. Anyway, so I fell in love with torts. I wanted to be a trial lawyer. I was recruited. I went to the clerk with the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. And then I worked for years and years with a personal injury firm. And then actually, it was an Easter morning. I went skydiving, and I said, I'm going to get my head straight.
Skydiving. Okay.
And I decided it's time to go out and go start this new venture. So that's how I got here. And so we're out here taking care of people every day. We're primarily a personal injury firm. Everybody that hires us has a lawyer and a paralegal. We're not organized around just paralegals handle people. We do it on a contingency fee basis, which means we have to win to get paid. Nobody owes us anything until we win. And if you're going to do a contingency, you should have a lawyer and not just a paralegal. And
Well,
that's what we've been doing.
so a couple of things. First of all, I so appreciate when you say you fell in love with the whole piece about torts. When I've had different things that when I think about when I was younger that I wanted to do when I graduated from high school and thought about college, and being an attorney was one. I actually went and took the LSAT, did well, but opted not to go to school and do something else because of marriage and moving around a lot. But then I also remember telling people, like, I fashioned myself a Thurgood Marshall, Constance Smiley Baker, the civil rights lawyers of the day, the great civil rights lawyers of the day. And I remember naively saying to myself, well, all those big cases have been decided. All those things are done. Never understanding that the law and some of these things could be evolving, that we could actually lose ground. When I think about Roe v. Wade, like, hey, this is settled law. We fought that. We've done that. And so you realize that the need to continue to have people come into this profession is so critical, because you can't ever just kind of rest on your laurels and think the big battles have been won and that there's not a need for somebody to constantly be on top of that. With that being said, though, I've also watched the space that is law seems like it's becoming narrower and narrower about what people will take to trial or cases people will take on. I know the legislature has been instrumental in that, like capping award amounts, or putting things into law that actually kind of diminish the rights of everyday citizens to fight back. And I'm just kind of interested in your perspective a little bit about the changing dynamic of the field, because back in the day, everybody, I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm going to call my lawyer. And you realize, like, to the point you mentioned about having one of a few lawyers who still deal with employment discrimination, how some of these doors seem like they've been closed legislatively that have impacted people's ability to get their day in court.
You're absolutely right. There's that saying, right? The arch of justice.
Yes.
Right. What we know from practical experience, every day you have to fight for justice, otherwise it goes backwards. And we know that more than ever before in almost 80 some days of our new administration. We have a reversal of civil rights unheard of ever. And there's been a trend in the law that way. And it's tied with big money. So I look at it this way. There are a group of people, primarily reflected by the billionaires around our president right now, that want basically to just run everything, and the rest of us just somehow take care of them, right? They want to keep all the money, and we're the ones that are paying the taxes. And we have to have this really public discussion about how we're going to get back to where we're going to be. How do we build a multiracial democracy where everybody's at the table? But it's even the littlest things. When there were a few years ago, and this is just an auto insurance question, but impacts personal injury work all the time. We worked for years and years to try to get fair consumer legislation. It was called Truth in Auto. And it defined insurance in certain ways. It had increased minimums. And when you bought what's called underinsurance, which protects you over and above, if somebody has not enough insurance, then you're protecting yourself, right? You want to protect yourself. And there were nuances that if you paid for that, you actually got the whole amount. when Walker and the Republicans took over Madison, that's one of the first things they wiped out, truth in auto. And they went back to defining insurance coverage very narrowly and reducing limits. And the effect has been hundreds and thousands of people that haven't been able to recoup their damages.
Yeah.
When they're, reckless drug driving. And, this is not just people you see on the news, reckless driving. This is not just an inner city issue, right? If you on Lincoln Memorial Drive, you go there every morning. This is like 65 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. We have a problem of disregard. It's somehow in our country, we have to slow down and say, okay, how do we get this thing right?
That is crazy too when you talk about that auto piece. And driving all over the state, I certainly know that this is not an issue unique to Milwaukee, the reckless driving piece, or Central City, Milwaukee. But I didn't realize, because I actually personally was impacted. I had a woman hit the back end of my car, and I didn't think it was that much damage. When I looked at it, she messed up the back of the car. But by the time they got done with the estimates to fix it, it was like $20,000 to fix my car. They was like, no, we totaling this car. And her insurance was bare minimum. I think she only had a maximum of $10,000.
She probably had $2,550.
Yeah, something crazy.
That's the minimum. And
but
it's not enough to cover anything in today's world.
And so, and then I'm like, okay, well, can my insurance pick up what hers won't? But just this whole idea that we had to go through all of this, like, why don't you have why is the ceiling or the floor set so low on minimum coverage? It was crazy to me. That was one part. So I certainly understand that. But when you look across the board too, are you seeing things that like limit personal injury even from the legislature, or any parameters on that we should be aware of?
There are a lot of things that I think once a month we can talk about.
Okay.
And we can keep coming back to them. And the key thing to always watch is what legislation, is it helping people or is it helping a particular business?
Right.
So we talked about insurance, how Walker and the Republicans came in and took care of the insurance companies and reduced consumer protections. In medical malpractice, it was you cap the recovery. And when you limited the recovery, you were limiting the recovery on those people.
Tell people what you mean by cap the recovery.
Very good, right? Under our state system of justice, and this is uniquely American and came out of the whole British system that predated us, is if you hurt someone could bring a suit for money damages. And we have been, for hundreds of years here in this country, measuring that. Juries were always the person to set the money damages. That was part of our democracy. If if they stole your cow, right? If they wrecked into, it started, right?
Right.
They hit your wagon, right? Right. Horse got away, hurt someone. Okay. So now we're modern day, right? You're driving a Tesla and you slam into somebody and you hurt someone, you have to pay. If you're a doctor, there's a standard of care. You have to provide medical care within the standard of care. And if you're negligent and you hurt someone, you have to pay. And under our system, juries were always that group of people. 12 people would decide how much you could get. Legislatures with moneyed interest said, no, we don't want juries deciding that. We are arbitrarily going to say this is what you can recover. That's a cap on recovery.
And we got to go to break. But one of the things that came to mind right away is what we did in the area of corrections. So I wrongfully got convicted of a crime, and people figure out that should have never happened. She was wrongfully convicted for any myriad of reasons. In Wisconsin, we cap some of those damages at $5,000 per year, up to 5 years. So if you figure out 25 years later that I was wrongfully incarcerated, I did 25 years in the state of Wisconsin. If I'm understanding the full impact of the law, the maximum I could recover was $25,000.
And we can come back to what your rights are under federal law in that context.
All right.
On the other side.
Let me do that. Let me take a quick break. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. New segment, Scales of Justice. We'll be right back. All right, family, welcome back to the show. Michelle Bryant, Say Something Real. Sitting and talking with none other than attorney Mark Thompson, a new segment, monthly segment here on the station, Scales of Justice. And Mark, before we went to the break, we were talking about, and there will be some element of me talking legislatively just because of my background, but how things have impacted the field and practice of law, and the cases that we take on, what's recoverable by way of damages even. And so I had brought up the example of corrections before we went to break, and you said, hey, this is a perfect time to bring in the federal component of this discussion.
So under federal law in that kind of situation, you would have a Section 1983 claim that you could make for your deprivation of liberty that would not be capped.
Okay.
So, and this happens all the time in the state law claim. For example, in Milwaukee, if you're a municipal employee, or just say you're an officer, and you use excessive force, that limit is capped at $50,000 under state law. And there's discretionary immunity, so you may not even be able to recover anything. That claim under federal law is a Section 1983 that it doesn't have caps or limitations. So when I represent people where there's an issue of what I call unconstitutional policing, right? Police exercising or violating someone's Fourth Amendment rights. We always bring that under federal law, so you're not capped. So it's a very, very complex situation. And not only legislatures limit, right? But the courts can limit. We did Title VI cases, which are cases for discrimination in public schools.
Okay.
I represented a mixed race child out of Baraboo who had been every day the N-word in her face, right? The Confederate flag in her face. So we brought a Title VI action. They paid $875,000. Shortly after that, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that in Title VI, you cannot get emotional distress damages. That type of discrimination violation under Title VI, it's all emotional. And we had cases out of Burlington.
So that just basically voided that award then?
Not that she was paid, but
okay.
It essentially we can't take Title VI cases anymore because you can't recover anything. And people don't even know. It's not even out there.
I
right?
mean, because it makes me think of, there was a situation down at one of the nightclubs downtown, a group of lawyers, ironically, black lawyers, or a group of men, I was going to say ironically, black lawyers, who tried to get into a club. They were told, Eves was the name of the club. They were told they couldn't get in. It was a private party. The guys stand on the block kind of thinking of what else to do because they're not from the area. They look at the group of folks going in. These people don't look like they all going to the same party. Find out they were being discriminated against. Take the case to court. The judge here says, yep, you were being discriminated against, but you didn't suffer any real damages, or awarded them $1. And you kind of walk away like, so unless I can physically, unless there is I don't know, something more tangible than my emotions, do I ever get compensated for?
So I think that's a great segue to what I am excited about doing the show with you, right? Obviously we have a self-interest, right? My firm, but it allows me to have a conversation with you and the broader community once a month about what is justice, why isn't it fair, how do we go about fixing it, and what are the hot issues that people are facing to talk about on this show. Because that's why I'm here, and this show has a broad reach and is always on point, and so I'm honored to be here.
Well, I am looking forward to it. I'm going to try not to have all the questions myself, but I am looking forward to it. I think it's so important. One of the things that I say, particularly in the Black community, we have had to use the courts to level the playing field on so many issues. And so, number one, I don't think that there's many people that don't have a healthy respect for the law. But where we have gotten in trouble is not understanding necessarily how these things work and how they can either be used for us or against us. And we've traditionally talked about whether or not folks have had their thumb on that scale of justice, if that lady is really blind when it's being applied across the board. And so I think that this is an excellent opportunity to educate the community, for us to learn, and hopefully for people to find folks that can help them if they find themselves in situations that require representation. So I'm looking forward to the relationship. And thank you so much for being willing to do this.
That's right. And folks, the firm is Gingras, Thompson, and Wax. 414-928-7756. 414-928-7756. GTW Lawyers. If we can help, we will.
So, and if for any reason you run into a problem, you can't remember all that, call the station, and we'll make sure that we get any information over to you or to the law firm to be able to help that too. Because I know sometimes people are like, that was a lot, I didn't catch it. So we're happy to help out in that way. Well, Mark, I'm looking forward to it. I'll talk to you about those eyeglasses offline so I can find out where you go. But I am looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. And second Monday of the month.
Second Monday of the month. This is right. And we're running those promo ads so folks can hear those as well. All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break. And Mark brought up the case of the biracial child in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Got to talk about a case down in Georgia where a teacher got in on the game. Be right back. 414-499-2827. Leave something at the station. We will try to get those questions answered for you and learn as much as we can by having this incredible partnership with the law firm. And let me just make sure I am saying it. Gingras, Wachs, and Thompson law firm. I just want to make sure I'm saying that correctly. So before we went to the break, Mark had mentioned a case that he had, his firm had represented out of Baraboo, biracial child being exposed to having the, word nigger said in the classroom, racial slurs, the Confederate flag, the whole 9 yard and or 9 yards. And so it made me think about a story that I just saw out of Georgia. I say all the time, I worry about my son living in the state of Georgia. I'm sorry, I just do. And there was and for a myriad of reasons. Georgia has notoriously been involved in some of the most heinous civil rights violations and crimes, not just back in the day, you think 40s, 50s, 60s, but more recently, case of young brother jogging, and you got to be accosted by people who think that your life means nothing and they can kill you because you're in the wrong neighborhood or what they perceive to be the wrong neighborhood. So anyway, there was a story that I was reading over on the Root, in which they talked about a school in Georgia, and I'm looking real quick for the school. But it is a school in Georgia, and the teacher, who also served as a coach, was at the board. And let me see. Okay, I finally got the story in front of me. Where'd it go? All right. So the high school, Walnut Grove High School in Loganville, Georgia. All right. And a staff member and assisting wrestling coach, Robert Walker, goes to the board. He is in his classroom, goes to the board and writes the letters NIGGE on the board. Okay. And the students all start clapping. And then one student yells out, R, R. And the teacher goes ahead and writes writes the R. So you complete the word NIGGER. And then what the teacher does not realize, though, is that there is because I'm assuming this must have been a predominantly white or all white class that he felt comfortable doing this. And the kids are all cheering and yeah. A student filmed the whole thing. It's only 10 seconds or so long, but a student must have saw the direction that class was going in and took out their phone and recorded this interaction. That student shared it with their parent. That parent ended up sharing it, and the whole thing gets out, and this now becomes a viral situation down in Georgia. And the principal, I think they said like it got 40,000 views as soon as it got posted. So the principal, they in the school district, they come out of Walton County. This is in Walton County, Georgia. They come out and say that the guy's been fired. But then there were parents who were like, well, we don't know the context. Why did he write it on the board? I don't know that he should have been fired. What's going on? And it's like the fact that the white children were cheering and clapping, and he wrote NIGGE, and then a student yells out R, and then what y'all think going on?
So didn't he get suspended for that or fired?
He got fired.
Yeah,
he got fired.
That.
And
the teacher.
Yeah, and I don't hear the rebuttal. I was teaching a class on what? What were you talking about?
Yeah, that would even cause you to even spell NIGGE.
I'm willing to be open, but where's the explanation at? There is none. Oh, okay. So you gotta go. And since I'm on high school, let me stay there for a moment. the Waukesha team that made national news. You know, I get tired of people calling me from around the country. Like, man, what y'all be doing in Wisconsin, bro? Like this is all the time. What are y'all doing in Wisconsin? So many of us remember the story about the Waukesha team who ends up being pulled over by the police. I think he was in Kansas. And they realize that he is driving his stepfather's car, that something is amiss, and one thing leads to another, and they figure out that this young man is actually on the run because he has killed his mother and stepfather, and they have been deceased for more than 2 weeks in their Waukesha home. He was for a while calling his dad's job, saying that he was sick and not coming into work. And so people didn't suspect anything right away. I tell folks all the time about you people who choose to live as hermits and not be socially engaged and not have relationships with people. You just cranky and dry and just sit in your house by yourself. And then something end up happening to your behind and nobody's checking for you. Nobody misses you. And you know, been in the house dead for 2 weeks. So I tell people all the time, make sure you got relationships, man. You know, it's something to be said for having somebody care about what's going on with you. So in any case, this couple had not been seen, and there was a wellness check requested. And when they get to the home, they find that these people are deceased, they've been killed, and they have likely been dead for about 2 weeks. Their son, the mother's son, the mom is Tatiana, and her husband, Donald Meyer, and the young man, Nikita Kassip, is the young man who did this. And so, okay, so we hear the stories like, okay, this sounds crazy. Family members or other people come out and say, yeah, you know, like some mental health issues. And people kind of like, okay, blow it off. Nobody expected this twist that got reported over the last couple of days. So evidently, this 17-year-old young man had been getting, you know, caught up in a group of white supremacists online. That the name of the group that he became kind of engaged with is called the Order of Nine Angels. The Order of Nine Angels is an extremist neo-Nazi group. Okay. And what the plan ends up being is that we're going to kill Donald Trump, and people will become so enraged that Donald Trump is assassinated that it will set off a war, civil war, white racist war, because white people are going to be up in arms that y'all killed Donald Trump. And, you know, I don't know who they were going to try to shift the blame to, you know, if like, because that part of the plan wasn't divulged yet. Like, so, I mean, because the last two people that tried to kill Donald Trump wasn't black. They weren't people of color. It was white folks. So who was the white people supposed to be up in arms and ready to fight? Like that part of the plan I didn't quite get. But this young man and his co-conspirators, the thought is we'll assassinate Trump. It'll set off, you know, people into an angry, you know, outrage. There will be war, and we will have the ability for white people to kill everybody, I guess. And, you know, just the sadness of this is a stupid plan. This is a stupid plan. Because who's getting ready to take up arms and start fighting? And who they getting ready to fight? And then he thought that once he sets all this in motion in America, because you're fighting for white supremacy in America, then he was going to leave and go to Ukraine. And then was even told by somebody, they got text messages where he said, and so then I'll be able to get a job in Ukraine, right? Like, oh my God, child, your 17 is showing, fam. I'll be able to get a job in Ukraine, right? So you're going to set off a whole war in America, hopefully, and then go live happily ever after and of all places, Ukraine. Complete and utter madness. But this is the thing. It made me think about. Remember when the guy attempted to assassinate Trump that was laying up on the building and got missed by all these different agencies? I remember having a conversation with my brother who said, so I wonder if this is really about assassinating Trump because I disagree with you, your policies, everything you stand for, or if this is about inciting white people that somebody has killed your leader, white people that support Trump, obviously not all white people, but and then that a race war breaks out in the nation. So is it being done because we believe that, again, these people hate Trump, or because somebody is hoping, because what did Trump say? And if you think about what Trump said, it plays right into what this little 17-year-old and his co-conspirators were thinking. Because what did Trump do? Fight, 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 fight. And I'm like, fight who? A white man tried to shoot you. So who you fighting? Fight, 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 fight. He didn't turn around to see if other people behind him were okay, if anybody had died. Nothing about him was presidential. Nothing about him demonstrated leadership. It was selfish and small and childish and, just dumb. Fight, 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 fight. But that's what the 17-year-old was thinking potentially. So Trump would be the sacrificial lamb. Yes, Jermaine.
Well, not only with the fight with the ketchup on his ear, that 17-year-old was in conversation with Russia and Russians, and Trump is having conversations with Russia, ain't he?
Yeah, but so the one thing too is we don't know how much of it is how many people really were Russian, because some of this stuff.
Well, that was in the report, right?
I mean, it was in the report, but so, I just don't know, because some people be passing themselves off like, oh yeah, I'm in a gang, and he's like, you ain't in no gang.
Oh,
So, some people be doing way more than they really are doing. They just be talking a whole lot. So I don't know, but there was definitely an element of white supremacy. There was a document that was done on his phone, talked about, they was not just going to get rid of Trump, wanted to get rid of Vance too, JD Vance. And then the document accused Jewish people of promoting white genocide and degeneracy. Quote, Jewish occupied governments must fall. The document said cannot survive unless America collapses. Contained images of Adolf Hitler with the text, Hail Hitler, hail the white race, hail victory. So, you just realize. So I don't know that anybody saw this turn coming, except maybe the people in Waukesha that know them. And I tell people, so, and maybe his parents weren't talking crazy at the house at all. Maybe he completely got indoctrinated and learned this in the streets. But I'm going to tell y'all something. If you're paying attention to your child and what your child does and who your child engages with, I'm always going to ask if there were red flags or not. But I'm also going to ask people, what kind of stuff are you saying in front of your kid? And somebody said, well, why did he kill the parents? Because he wanted money. They found him with $14,000 on him. And they said the autonomy. So he didn't want anybody questioning what he was doing in the moves he was making. He needed his parents out the way. So they too were going to be just sacrificial lambs for the greater good of creating a race war.
Or do you think that
collateral damage?
Maybe he didn't agree with his parents' views and decided to take them out en route to.
Well, the reason he gave the police was I needed their money and I needed to be able to make moves without anybody questioning what I was doing. So that's what he said. So right now he hasn't said, my parents were bleeding heart liberals and they had to go. He didn't say that. But let me take a break. But that story, didn't see that coming, that we gonna make Donald Trump a sacrificial lamb and create a race war. Be right back.
That soul-stirring gospel Easter bash is gonna be a bash you don't wanna miss. At Abundant Face, located at 7830 West Good Hope Road. The Captain Spirituals. Come on now, Spencer Taylor and the Highway QCs. The fabulous Lucky Brothers. Pastor Tim Rogers and the Phillips is gonna be in the house. Bishop Neil Robeson, Reverend R.L. Bush and the Revived Church. Willie Rogers, Tiffany Terry, Willie Banks Jr. and the Messengers. Curtis Eubanks. Now get your tickets at the New Kids Mortuary. Call 414-4476.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, folks. So I said a lot of different stories that have caught our attention over the course of time since I last talked to you all. During the break, Jermaine and I were just discussing the helicopter crash along the Hudson River in New York and the 6 people that lost their lives on that crash. A family of 5, mother and father, and their 3 children, along with the pilot. And we are learning that the pilot actually has Milwaukee connections.
Yeah. Some of my people, Tammy Jordan and Angelo Nelson, is kin to Sean. And
Sean Johnson is the name
Yeah.
of the brother that was the pilot.
yeah, so like I'm looking at the picture when the picture came out, and I'm like, man, this guy looked familiar, but I'm like, nah, here in New York, I don't know any pilots. Then I got to seeing on Facebook some of my people's, Angelo Nelson, he posted his cousin. Then it all started coming back. Like I remember
You
him. I
remember
remember
this
meeting.
guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I remember the younger version. I haven't seen him in years,
Okay.
but I remember the younger version of seeing him. And yeah, it all started to come out that
that this was a brother who was, because I knew when I heard people talking about he was from Chicago.
Yeah.
And then I had saw the photo. I said, oh, that's a brother.
Yeah.
That was the pilot.
Yeah.
So he was 36 years old.
Yeah.
Had just posted a video 2 weeks ago, March 27th, showing himself flying in Lower Manhattan in that I think they said it's a Bell 206 helicopter, which is similar to what he was flying in on the day of the crash. But this man had extensive, flying experience. He had been flying for tours in Chicago before coming to New York, to do it there. And so it is going to be crazy as they try to figure this whole thing out. When they talked about the rotors actually separating from the plane, it seems like this plane was breaking apart in midair, or this helicopter was breaking apart in midair. So we will see what's going on. But definitely wanted people to realize that pilot was a brother, and that pilot actually was from Milwaukee or had lived in Milwaukee, moved to Chicago, and then goes on from there, with his Navy career and everything that went on. And so you just didn't realize that there was a connection here in the city. So for folks that knew this brother, had a connection or a relationship, obviously our condolences to you. And the first thing I thought about is Donald Trump better not start that DEI nonsense, not for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
not for 5 seconds. He better not start it.
Because if he do, which would be crazy, he didn't say anything about the other pilots, that all the other stuff that happened.
Right.
The plane crashed in Florida.
So I like literally, once I realized that it was a brother, I didn't know much else, but I knew that because they hurry up and let you know who the pilot was. And they said the company has closed immediately since the accident happened.
Yeah, but what I didn't like when it first came out is how they talked about this family that was on board, the CEO and all this other stuff, and didn't mention the pilot until people started
saying,
outraging, okay, what about the pilot?
And I think that some people wanted the pilot brought up because they wanted to bring up DEI. They wanted it oh, y'all ain't showing that this was a black pilot. Bring that part up. It's just crazy that this is the time that we are in. That now everything that's done will be judged based on what's the person's skin color, where the person went to school. The fact that we have just allowed this to deteriorate into this, or to go back to this, because this isn't new. We've been here before. We're now here again, but we have to push back. So yeah, I just, once I saw the whole thing breaking, I figured that there will be something that will be said. But if Trump come out the bag with this mess, oh my God, I'm going to be ready. Because I'm like, the other part of it, I'm looking like, so all these assassination attempts, it ain't no brother standing around you when these folks trying to kill you. We ain't nowhere to be found. We ain't on your security detail. We ain't nowhere to be found. And I don't hear anything about competency at that point. So just pay attention to this case to see what happens, because I haven't heard Trump weigh in yet, but I'm waiting on it. I'm waiting on it. And speaking of security details and people having what they need around them to be safe and how things play out, many of us also watched the reporting about the governor, Josh Shapiro, out of Pennsylvania, and the governor's residence being set on fire intentionally, that a man was able to scale a fence, get on the property of the governor's residence, and Shapiro, who was at home with his wife, their 4 children, 2 dogs, and another family member, they were there. And this guy, Cody Balmer, 38 years old, scales the fence, gets on the property, is able to break into the house, get in the house, and go into this area that he sets on fire. Has incendiary devices that he is using to help the blaze catch on. We got a call. Oh, is that the pilot? Let's go to the phone line. No, Oh, the Delta Literary Luncheon. Okay, let's get her on phone. Hello. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Was today the day that we were to meet and have this discussion on air?
Is this
Carol Hopson.
This is the captain.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, oh my God. You know what? Today is the day. And let me just pull it up, Captain Hopson. I apologize because I got sidetracked talking about this crash in New York. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
First of all, let me say good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm super well. How about yourself?
You know what? I am good, and I am even better that we have you on the line. This is such a timely moment. So for folks that are like, Michelle, who is that? So last week I had folks in from Delta Sigma Theta. I'm a Delta, but I had some of my sorority sisters in. We're talking about our upcoming literary luncheon, and the fact that they were going to be featuring an author, Captain Carol Hopson, who has written an amazing book. We'll take a minute to talk about the book, but who is also a pilot who happens to be African American, who happens to be a female, and who happens to be a boss. What? I am so excited to talk to you. Oh my goodness. So first of all, let me just ask you how you doing. How are things going?
I'm doing super well. I am super well. I will tell you this. I don't make any comments about that darn crap. I am grieved like the rest of America, and TSB is going to do their thing. So if that were the question, that's exactly how that's how I would respond.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Like I said, it was just one of those things. We have seen the attacks on DEI, so it just naturally came up. But I'm gonna tell you, when I looked at the data behind folks of color, Black people in particular, Black women more specifically, that made up the aviation industry, I was blown away at the very small number of women of color, Black women that are engaged in this field. Then when I looked at
insignificant.
I mean, I think it was like 0.5% or something like that.
Yeah, we are less than 1%.
Less than 1%. So I got to ask this question, Captain Hopson. I talked a little bit about it in terms of your bio, but if listeners could hear from you, how do you decide to become a pilot? Because I read it, it was a little like, what? But I want them to hear it from you.
Got it. Are we on the air?
Yes, ma'am. We are on the air. Okay, I love you. I love your laugh. I love you. I'm telling you right now, I love you.
I laugh a lot. God is good. I laugh a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't laugh, my heavens, life is just too short. So how did I ever want to do this? How did I want to do this? Why? I was 4 years old. That's about the earliest memory I can think of. I wanted to fly an airplane ever since I could spot one in the sky. And since we're on the air, I'll take it off speakers. I'm hearing a little bit of a reverberation. There we go.
Perfect. There you go.
I have always wanted to fly an airplane. It's just that when I came up in the 70s and when I came up early 70s, that's how old I am, there were very few women. I didn't see any Black women, and I certainly didn't see any Black women who had eyeglasses. I mean, it was a ridiculous thing. So, when people say representation matters, it's not just that it matters. It is everything, because you just don't believe that you can do something where you see yourself not even as a possibility. And so at our wonderful luncheon, which is coming up soon, I'll talk about an amazing woman who gave me a coffee mug with Bessie Coleman's picture on it. And I mean, I had never met Bessie Coleman in any of the textbooks I had in high school, at the University of Virginia as an undergraduate, or at Columbia University as a graduate student in journalism. I had never, ever seen her in any of my textbooks. And it just seemed that when I saw her, I was like, oh my God, this was 100 years ago. If she could do it, I could do it.
and look, I trust the planes you using more than what Miss Coleman was using back in the day. Woo!
But think about this. Think about this. 100 years ago, the airplanes that she was flying were similar to the airplanes that I fly today.
Are you
in terms
serious?
of, well, at the moment and the technology.
Okay.
So Bessie Coleman was flying World War I airplanes. Those airplanes were used for reconnaissance. Those airplanes were used in order to be sniper airplanes. Bigger ones were used as bombers. They were used in order to win a war.
Okay.
Woo.
Oh, look.
Where do we go?
Okay, look, I think we both had that collective, just the thrill that just rushes through you when you understand the significance of what you just laid out. So
Yes,
you become enamored with understanding Bessie Coleman. But how does that translate to you? Like, I'm going to do this. I mean, I don't want to give away the whole story, but it's just like, this is a heck of a leap, particularly when you talk about representation even today. And
well,
but I
let
saw
me give you some of the numbers. Let me give you
Please.
some of the numbers.
Okay.
And I'm going to do this again. And let me tell you why you have to do it a couple times. As I like to say, let me repeat this one for the folks in the back pew.
I say it all the time.
The folks in the back. Let me tell you why. The numbers are so infinitesimal, and you pointed to it. So we have 150,000 people who fly for a living in the United States. Every single one of the major airlines is retiring 1 to 2 pilots every single day. Why? Because of attrition. We have an aging workforce. Age 65, Congress has legislated, is the age at which we can no longer fly people for what's known as Part 121. These are airlines that fly people. So the big three are United, the best, Delta, and American Airlines, right? So, and also, I mean, Southwest, you name it, national, low-cost carriers. Age 65, we come out to flight deck. But I'm only talking about the majors, right? The three majors, United, Delta, and American.
Okay.
We lose 1 to 2 pilots every single day. Easy math, let's just say 365 days a year. Let's just make it 350. That's easily 1,000 to 2,000 pilots every single year. Boeing, that makes airplanes, says that we're going to need multiples of that number, multiples of 2,000 people every single year in order to fill our flight decks, to take the customer who wants to fly post-COVID everywhere. The leisure customer, the business customer. We have seen record numbers at TSA. So let me finish the numbers. 150,000 people fly for a living every day. Talked about the attrition. And of that number, roughly 2.5% are African American, roughly 2.5% are Latinx, roughly 2.5% are Asian. Less than 7% are women. Black women who are captains, well, let me just do black women. We're less than 150. That's cargo, that's major, that's low-cost carrier, that's military, that's people who fly for a living. We're less than 150. Of that number of black female captains, we're less than 2 dozen.
You said less than 2 dozen?
Less than 2 dozen.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a staggering numbers.
It's staggeringly low.
Oh my
And
God.
here's the thing. The airplane doesn't care who you are. And quite frankly, neither does the FAA. What they look for is performance. What they look for is excellence. What they look for is safety. And you know what? That's what I look for. Here's the reason why we've come to a pilot shortage. We have come to a pilot shortage because most of our pilots, approximately 3/4, about a decade ago, came from the military. Well, we just talked about how Bessie Coleman was flying military aircraft in 1920s, right? 21, 20, 1919, 1920. They were all military airplanes. The military and aviation have grown up together. That's why our uniforms look like military. That's why our work rules are very similar to government military work rules. And I'm not talking about our unions, but I'm just talking about like our pay scales, et cetera. let me skip over that for a second. Here's the reason why we're at a shortage. The military doesn't train pilots in the way that they used to. That's just a fact. Why? Because we're fighting wars differently than we used to. And so at one time, 75% of our flight deck in the U.S. airlines were filled by military pilots. And today there's almost a flip of those numbers because you're getting much more civilian pilots. Well, if that's the case, then we have to recruit civilian pilots because there was a pipeline of military pilots who went to the military and then they came to the airlines. And so now we have to teach a civilian population to fly. And we also have to recruit from talent pools where we have never, ever looked. And that's why I feel like it's an opportunity to share what we do with people whom we've never recruited. And those folks, who are they? I believe they're Black women. I think we're built for this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw a story about a young sister. I think she was 19 years old, who had recently gotten a pilot's license. I'm not sure for what type of particular aircraft, but then down in Gwinnett County, I saw that there are a pilot school that was created by a brother that is down there training people, and you realize that like we're going to have to look and go to places that have been overlooked. Quite frankly, devalued by way of talent pools to shore up these numbers. And I'm gonna tell you, I can count on one hand the number of times I've ever been on a plane, and when you get that initial greeting from the pilot, hey, this is Captain so and so, you never hear a woman. You never hear, because I'm telling you right now, if I hear a woman, I'm standing straight up on the plane like, wait, what? Who? The excitement. And and it's crazy because it shouldn't be that way, but it is because you realize we're so underrepresented. But I gotta ask you, how does all that go then to you writing a book about this whole thing? And who said you could write? Where did the author piece come from? I'm tired of you already, Captain Hopson, with all these skills. I'm tired of you.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. So the reason why we're doing what we're doing is I started a foundation called the Jet Black Foundation.
Okay.
It's a 501c3. So if you're listeners, if you're there and you'd love to support this effort, our goal is to send 100 Black women to college and flight school by the year 2035.
Oh, love it.
Our first year, we are ramping up. And let me now say it one more time. JetBlackFoundation.org. Go and support. Donate $5, donate 500, send one woman, send 100 women, send 10.
You know what? I love it. So I'm gonna stop being a hater, and I'm gonna just say I am because we clearly are the beneficiary of all of these skills that you have.
Yeah,
but let
me go back because you asked me about the writer.
Yeah, how do you do this? What sparks this?
Okay, so like I said, ever since I was 4, I wanted to be a pilot, but it just didn't seem possible. So I went to college and I majored in Spanish literature, and I said, you know what? I've always been a good writer, so I'm going to go to newspapers. I always wanted to be a newspaper writer, a pilot, or a doctor. So I volunteered as a candy striper, and the sick things made me sad. So, okay, I'm going to pursue this writing thing. And I got a job at a Black newspaper in Philadelphia called the Philadelphia Tribune. And I also was a stringer, which means you get paid by the article that you write for the Philadelphia Tribune.
Okay.
I had an amazing editor there, and her name was Alexis Moore-Love. And she said, Carol, you're going to have to leave Philly. You're going to have to go to a small market, go and get your skill, and then come back to the Philadelphia Tribune because we're a major. So go get an apprenticeship and come back. So I left. I went to the Bergen Record, and I was a police reporter for 6 years.
Whoa!
6 years. And in between,
Carol, it's too much. This is too much. Now, when I tell you, you have been willing to do and try it all, undeterred, not scared. I love this story, man.
Well, I mean, there's fear, right? And then there's and then you do it anyway, right? Because why? I mean, people who are fearless, to me, sometimes can act with not recklessness. I don't want to say that, but people who do things, who take risk. If it's a calculated risk, then it's a smart risk. And as a newspaper reporter, I made my living writing. But then what I learned was that if you have a language, if you can write, if you can have some sort of engineering skill, those are things that translate to almost any career. And so what I learned as a reporter was I asked the most basic questions, just like you do. Listen to the questions that you're asking me. They're fundamental, they're smart, they're investigative, and those skills. Well, let me ask you this question. Why does lift work on an airplane? Why? I don't understand. Explain to me how a jet engine works.
Right.
Tell me like I'm a fifth grader.
Right.
I'm sorry. Could you do that one again for the people in the back? That would be me. I'm in the back pew. Do it again.
Right.
And then those skills are what we need in order to teach. So the best way to earn your time as a pilot is as an instructor. And what you learn, and you learn it right away, and then you start teaching it right away, sounds a little backwards, right? But what you learn and then what you teach, you have to learn profoundly. And that's the way we build our time. But anyway, so I was a newspaper reporter for 7 years. I did a story that just changed my life about bad people doing bad things. I went to journalism school at Columbia, finished, and came away and used those skills all the time. And I wound up going to the National Football League. So from the
NFL? Okay, this wasn't in the bio. Wait, what? So you go to the NFL and do what, Carol?
I spent 2 years there starting a program called Player Program. And our job was to get professional players back into college if they hadn't had matriculated and gotten their degrees, or to get them jobs during the off season. And while I was out there doing that, I found a job for myself. I went to Foot Locker and I headed up. I started there as an EEO investigator, which I used my reporter skills. So let's say we had cases that would come in about hirings that weren't right or firings that were even wronger. And then I would do part of the investigation with our attorneys. And I went from there. I had done that kind of piece, that investigative work. And I had much more of a proclivity for the training group. Loved it. Went in, I was a trainer, and within 6-7 years, I was the vice president of the entire group, and I had a whole learning organization. I started, let's see, stop laughing. I started.
Look, I'm evaluating my whole life. I am in trouble over here. Oh my God! It's people just shaking their head right now. Captain Hopson, you got folks evaluating. Look now, I have not lived up to my potential. Messing with you in this interview. Okay, go on, Vice President.
Okay. So I started a corporate university. I started a merchandiser program, a buyer's training program. My colleague had written a store manager program. I executed it. In all of those, it was math. No one had ever said to me, "Hey, you're really good in math." No one had ever. I scored well on tests and stuff, but nobody ever. Again, the '70s black girl. Nobody ever said, "Hey, you know what? This right here, you're missing something. You're missing your calling." So I said it was a long flight from JFK to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, where we were opening stores, where I was doing a super manager training program. I was literally sitting in first class, and I was at a 90-degree angle looking into the flight deck. And the captain comes out and he said, "Ma'am, if we fly all the way across the North Atlantic at night with you with your neck like that, you are going to be no good when you get where you're going. Come up front. Sit here." It was before 9/11. I sat in there. By the time we got to Schiphol, I had asked that poor man every question about every button and every bit of that flight deck. And when I got up from one of the first words I learned, the jump seat, I knew I needed to jump start. And so it just kind of ruminated for a couple of weeks. I was in the subway and I saw this handsome guy, and I recognized he is the brother of one of my best friends. when I was in college. And I had a little mini skirt, worked for the NFL, went running up. Hi, how are you? Hiked my little skirt back down by the time I had run with my little sneakers. And he said, I'm well, how are you? I said, doing great. It's been a long time since we've seen each other. It's been a decade since we had been co-eds at University of Virginia. He said, how about lunch? I said, how about dinner? We went to dinner. We talked politics. I told him all about myself. And he said, woo, sounds eclectic. What are you going to do with yourself when you grow up? I said, well, I don't want to tell you. If I tell you, I'll laugh. He said, I won't laugh. I said, it's a good thing, big fella, because if you laugh, you're not getting none. I mean, none of this. And he laughed at me and said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to fly a plane.
Look, Carol.
Said, oh, my God.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Woo.
And the reason why I want to do that is because I will mess around and give away this whole story. I need people to come to this luncheon so they can meet you in person, so they can see, what I see on my screen, just this vibrant sister who has not only reinvented, opened doors, kicked in, spaces to be able to bring representation. But this is such an incredible story. I want them to hear it from you directly and be able to see you while you telling it. And so I'm just going to remind people that the 47th annual Zelta Memorial Endowment Fund Literary Luncheon is happening on Saturday, April 26th at 11:30 a.m. over at the St. Kate Hotel. I will tell people how they can get tickets, but Captain Hopson, I don't want to stop the interview, but my show ends at 9, and so
cliffhanger. We got a good cliffhanger.
So we're gonna do that because I'm left with you in the mini skirt, and the brother looking at you like, tell me, and I'm waiting now to get the rest of this when we see you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning, and your light comes through the phone. It just, you can see the sunshine all over you.
Amen. Sunshine, no sunshine. Energy, no energy.
I will see you in a couple of weeks, sis.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. God bless you.
All right. God bless you.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Now, look, I got to fly United just so I can figure out how to be on one of this sister's flights. Captain Carol Hopson, y'all, is the author of A Pair of Wings. Make sure that if you come to the Literary Luncheon, you buy a ticket, you're going to get the book as a part of your ticket cost. With that, I'm getting ready to wrap the show and get out the way. Somebody cracking me up. People like, I love this lady. You can hear it through the phone. All right. So let me thank my colleagues in the studio. Debo, what's your name? Jay Rideout. Appreciate y'all. What? You got to get it too, fam. You got to get it too. Okay. But family, I will talk to y'all tomorrow. Man, this day went crazy fast. Peace, y'all.
There were soldiers